striking woman leans against the cabin top of her sailing boat, smiling as you approach. Her green raincoat glistens with droplets. A silk scarf is tied around her throat.
Good morning, officers. I'm Joyce. Joyce L. Messier. I represent the board of Wild Pines, the owners of the harbour. You gentlemen must be from the RCM.
Joyce L. What does the L stand for?
Baton, my maiden name.
What gave us away?
Nothing, honestly. I've said it to every drunk in town, and you're the first one who's responded.
What is implied here? That you're a drunk? She hasn't actually said it to every drunk in town. It was spoken in jest.
I'm not a drunk. I'm a police officer.
Of course you're not. It was only a joke. I'm glad to see you here.
Like steel, there is strength there. If she wanted, she could sink her nails deep into your skin.
I was dispatched to handle a strike, not a lynching. Anything I can do to assist the RCM in this matter, I will, gladly.
That is good to hear, madame. My colleague will take the lead on this interview. I should let you know that he is recovering from an unusual medical episode. Very unusual. But I can assure you of his ultimate competency.
There's a trace of irony in his voice. Mischief, even. The lieutenant is hatching some scheme. He's trying to signal something. He wants you to play up your condition. It happens quicker than a shooting star. But did the lieutenant just wink at you?
How interesting. I wish you a swift recovery. In the meanwhile, you have my full cooperation, and the full cooperation of the Wild Pines group.
It's hard to get a read on her precise disposition, but she appears helpful.
You're on a boat.
Why, yes I am.
Not a lot of people on boats, are there?
Of course there are. We're on an archipelago. How else are you supposed to get around?
There is a pinch of defensiveness in her voice, but it is playful.
Wait, we're on an archipelago?
Yes, we are. We are on Le Caillou.
Technically, the neighboring Ozone and Fas a la Mer island groups are archipelagos, while La Caillou, by contrast, is a single fertile landmass, the fourth largest island in the world. It is not an archipelago.
Wait, I thought the Caillou was one big island.
Okay, if you want to get technical, the point is we're all on islands here, and sail is still the most expedient way to get from one island to another, especially when you're in a hurry to resolve a strike.
Still, I haven't seen anyone else sail a boat around here.
I haven't seen anyone else drive a souped-up Capri Kenema motor carriage either.
Actually, that motor carriage has been specially issued to serve as a patrol and pursuit vehicle. It's for crossing long distances in the greater Revachol industrial harbor. It's not a toy.
Neither is this. A toy, I mean. It's a machine for crossing long distances in the Bay of Revachol, between the city and the islands.
You need to make this lady admit she's only riding around on this boat because she's rich.
Yes, I do.
Before you do, it would be pertinent to ask other questions. Gather more info on this boat of hers.
Does she have a name?
The boat? No. It is called Cut-09-The 19 because that's the type of sloop it is.
The word "it" feels strange. Such a beautiful boat deserves a proper name. A breeze ripples through the sails and tugs at your hair. Below, the sleek, fish-like shape of the hull parts the water. Beneath that, a resounding darkness. You're reminded of something. Or someone.
Cool, but your boat really needs a name.
Okay. How about Cut-09-The 19? Why? Because it was manufactured in Revachol East by a company called Cut-09-The, and its hull is 19 paces long.
She makes a point of being unromantic about it.
How about Dolores?
Why Dolores?
Because it stings. in an ancient and beautiful way.
I don't know. Feels pretty.
Well, it means nothing to me. I think I'll stick with the factory name. But thank you for the suggestion.
Okay, but what kind of boat is it?
It's a pleasure craft, a 19 pacer. It also happens to be rated for Category 1 racing. Though these days I mainly use it for business.
How do you like it?
My sloop? I like it a lot. It's the eel's hips, baby.
I'm enjoying this part of the interview. It has so little to do with the murder we're investigating.
I really do, the lieutenant thinks. Is she thrown off yet? He's looking at the woman, assessing her.
Do you have a license for this boat?
Officer, I assure you I'm a highly qualified pleasure craft operator.
The crowns of her teeth are porcelain, white as the boat's hull as she smiles. Qualified pleasure craft operator. So charming. Where's the damn license?
Can I see your license?
I just renewed its safety inspection last month, officers. It is completely seaworthy. In fact, it's taken part in not one, but two insulindic regattas. Even finished once.
What happened the other time?
The other time, I would have finished the race were it not for an urgent work matter, much like the one I'm on now.
Still need to see a license, ma'am.
Actually, you don't.
I'm pretty sure I do. I police.
It is a little known fact among those who police that the Wayfarer Act specifically denies the RCM the authority to demand anyone's operator license.
The Wayfarer Act is one of the few pieces of legislation governing human interaction in the Revachol Zone of Control, along with the Emergency Trade and Ailments Acts.
The what now?
It's one of the foundational laws in Revachol, designed to limit the authority of local institutions. Part of it prohibits the RCM from requesting most documents and licenses without permission from a coalition representative. It's a law that keeps Revachol what it is, in limbo.
So we can't pull over random civilians and demand their papers? That's weak.
Unless it's their passport. No. Do you want to ask for the lady's passport?
You need to save face if you want her respect. Demand that passport.
Yes, I'm going to need to see your passport.
Of course.
The woman is silent, smiling while the waves lap against the hull. In your hand, under the plastic, a light blue passport saying, Republic of Vespa. The coat of arms has a lion and an ostrich. Seagent. The Republic of Vespa, formerly the Republic of Vespa Messina, was once a dual kingdom. An amicable parting of ways produced two constitutional monarchies. Vespa, the richer of the two, is an occidental nation known for its proximity to the Pearl and its exotic financial derivatives.
Anything else?
It is a stable country, and yet there has always been something ominous about its perfect stability. It's a place at the edge of the Muindi Isola, overlooking the Ubi Sunt Isles, fracturing into the great unrest of the Pearl. The woman, born in the year 3 in the commune of Revachol, smiles at you, face adorned with frown lines and crow's feet. The photo is recent. The name reads, Rejoice Leighton Messier.
Your name is Rejoice?
Yes. But please don't call me that.
Why?
Joyce is much more efficient.
She doesn't like it. Probably a bad memory. Mean girls at school or some ancient lover.
You're from the Republic of Vesper?
My husband is. I have dual citizenship. A Vespertine is handier when traveling.
Everything appears to be in order.
She nods and returns the plastic bag to her coat.
Let's talk about the economics of this boat you're on.
Oh my. The E word. You mean to say that it's a symbol of conspicuous consumption? That I'm a member of the ruling class?
Yes, Exactly.
Detective, may I remind you that Mrs. Messier is a professional negotiator.
Then what does that say? Does it say docking reserved for residents of Rue de Saint-Ghislain, 33A? 33A, this old proletarian haunt here. As I said, plenty of people drive boats, of all social strata.
Your synapses flesh.
Funny, I don't see any other EOCOs around.
You mean eel's hips. But point taken. I am a bourgeois woman, and this is my fast, light, interminably bourgeois boat.
There is no shame in her voice. A touch of sadness, yes, but no shame.
I think I have a handle on the boat thing.
Good.
Tell me about Wild Pines. What do you do?
What we do. I'm afraid I don't speak for Wild Pines as a whole. It's a giant undertaking.
There was a touch of discomfort there. She wants to merely represent.
So what do they do?
The Pines' core competency is logistics. Container shipping, freight, that sort of thing. See those airships there, linking? Those are the shipping side of things. And that is the terminal. Another subdivision deals with energy, oil and gas exploration, offshore platforms.
The Wild Pines Group is one of the original Revacholian Indo-tribes. Companies awarded royal monopolies by the king, the suzerain himself, centuries ago. The king is long gone, but several of the Indo-tribes remain. She enjoys talking about the company. It would not hurt to inquire more.
Who are the other Indo tribes?
Saint-Baptiste, Elysium, an unknown entity known as Brightest Star.
You're in good company, it seems.
Why, thank you.
How much money does Wild Pines have?
I'm not at liberty to discuss the company balance sheet, but I can tell you that last year, the company booked more than 20 billion real in revenue.
That's it? I thought Wild Pines was supposed to be big time.
And to think, there are years when the group books losses in the billions. Walpines employs 72,000 people, all of whom have families that depend on their salaries. It is a tremendous responsibility.
Where does Wild Pines get out of these billions?
They started as an exploration and cargo fleet conducting trade between the Samaran and Insulindian Isolas 250 years ago, when pine ships explored the South Seminese and charted Lomantang on behalf of the suzerain. Centuries of care, deliberation, and madness have gone into this endeavor. Vessels pass through the great unrest to re-emerge with apricots in tow. The logic of the system is totalizing. It's taken everything from its employees to build it.
It probably helps to start out with the royal monopoly.
You know more than you let on. Certainly it helped, but most of the original Indo tribes have failed or been absorbed. To survive, Wild Pines had to grow and adapt. No suzerain did that.
What does such a huge system want with a place like this?
You mean aside from being the terminal's legal owners, who are responsible for moving 8% of the world's cargo?
You don't keep it moving. The workers do. The company is nothing without them.
We built this district.
There it is. She owns up to it.
All the best parts of it. Rue de Saint-Ghislain, with its bastions. The plazas Meteor and Mosaic. Even some of the old street lamps have been put back thanks to the investments from the WP. Before Martinez was swallowed by the industrial harbour, even before it was part of Revachol, long before Terminal B was erected here, the Pines built it as a resort for its Revacholian employees. A company getaway, for a weekend or a summer holiday. Then came the revolution. But that's another matter. I'm here to make sure the Pines can fulfill their responsibilities to the place they built.
With your help, hopefully, says her warm tone.
What can you tell me about this strike?
Everything. Right up to, but not including, trade secrets.
Wait, what if I want to hear about trade secrets?
First, you'd have to repeal the Emergencies Act of Trade in Elements that gives me the right to silence. It's quite the octopus.
The octopus that straddles Revachol, the Emergencies Act, is the cornerstone of post-war Revachol, inseparable from the world it created.
An octopus? I'll slay it.
Good luck is only kept in place by the vested interests of half the civilized world, including your own.
What the ma'am means is that the Emergencies Act and the RCM both get their authority from the coalition government.
You'd be shooting yourself in the foot, in other words. Did someone say shooting yourself in the foot?
You would be surprised at the amount of damage I can inflict upon myself.
I imagine a man like you can take quite the lashing. But I believe we are talking about the strike.
What is your role in this precisely?
I believe the official title is Senior Labor Negotiator. In practice, I'm a grocery clerk. I relay the union's demands to Wild Pines and return with Wild Pines' counteroffer.
No way. She's more. She can make decisions.
And how are the talks going?
They're not. That's the problem. The union stopped all negotiations a week ago, after that awful lynching took place.
Wait. She just admitted that the lynching and the strike are connected.
Now they won't even let me into the harbour. There's a 2-meter 20 racist behemoth blocking the gates.
Tell us more about this behemoth.
What can I say? The union employs a giant covered in tattoos. A racist giant. I guess that's part of their big tent organization now.
So the strike is connected to the lynching.
Yes, I believe there is a connection. But that's a subject for later.
She is resolute in this, yet you sense that she wants to tell you. You'll have to earn her trust first.
How were the talks going before the lynching?
Let's say I was not making the kind of progress I'd hoped for when I first arrived.
And when did you first arrive?
I arrived 3 weeks ago. Yes, in the middle of February. The bay was still partially frozen then. I'd prefer to do these things on site, like the RCM.
But the strike began in December.
I wasn't the original negotiator here. I took over after Mr. Gaumont hit a wall with Mr. Clare, the union boss. Mr. Clare refused to speak with Gaumont despite concessions he'd granted the union in prior negotiations.
This isn't the first time the union has gone on strike.
Heavens no. There have been 2 prior strikes. Both times the union won significant concessions, including overtime pay and a medical plan. This time their demands are more, I guess you could say, aggressive.
Ludicrous even. It's meant.
What happened to this Gaumont?
Mr. Clare told him to... how did he put it? Fuck off, midget. Gaumont is short of stature, you see.
Cool.
Yes. Extremely. Keep in mind, this is a negotiator Mr. Clare has worked with before, and who was more than fair with him and the union.
Sounds like usual aggressive posturing.
What are their demands?
There are leaflets everywhere, and banners. What did they say again? Oh yes. Every worker, a member of the board.
Most of the workers probably don't know what that means.
Over aggressive comic posturing.
In its defense, another said, demand democracy. Pretty tame stuff compared to every worker, a member of the board.
Most of them probably don't know what that means.
Fortunately, they explained it. Every time the Wild Pines group makes a decision about anything, it needs the signature of each of the 2,200 workers in its Martinez terminal. Just so you understand, this is but one of 22 terminals owned by Wild Pines. Essentially, not only are they kings of the company, they are also kings of the 72,000 employees of Wild Pines Group.
An opening gambit, surely.
The king is dead. Long live the workers.
That may well be. It's not up to me to decide who is king, but as negotiations go, it's not a swell start.
Sounds like an opening gambit.
So I hoped. But this type of opening is usually followed by a more reasonable offer. I've yet to hear one. Just the same nonsensical slogan repeated over and over again. And now, people are getting lynched, I hear. Behind the whirling in rags. A disastrous situation if there ever was one.
Excuse me, from whom did you hear about this lynching?
I first heard it from the bowyer at the gates. The one whose very name advertises his aversion to work. I think he said it was, "Call me mañana."
This checks out. No, wait. The chief negotiator heard it from a man at the gates. Surely the Wild Pines group has more effective channels of information. After all, 2,200 people are on strike. This is a big deal for them.
Tell me about this union boss, Mr. Clare.
Everard Clare is a man of the utmost integrity. If you can say one thing about him, it's that he always puts the interests of the workers first.
She's being sarcastic. Don't take her performance literally.
That's not what you really think, right?
Of course not. Everard is fantastically corrupt. I imagine he has a thick, viscous goo where you and I have blood.
If you were to prick it with something sharp, you could see it oozing out. A knife, maybe? No, a rapier.
You sound like you're about to take a rapier to him.
Oh, heavens no. We get along just fine. Yet, now that you mention it, I can't stop imagining that black treacle just dribbling down his double chin.
Is he that bad?
He is the most corrupt individual I have ever seen, and I deal with men like him for a living. If there is anyone more venal, more irredeemably nepotistic, then it's his twin brother, Edgar.
Wait, there are two of him?
Yes, Edgar looks exactly like his brother, except for that lazy eye. He also talks exactly like Everard does, and when one's term as foreman is up, the other takes over. It's how they circumvent the term limits, you see, with a funny little switcheroo. While in office, they've embezzled God knows how much of their workers' dues.
What about the union itself, outside the Brother Clare?
The Débardeurs Union was once a perfectly normal institution. 20 years ago, anyway. It must not have been easy to establish under the Emergency Act, but they did it. I can respect that. Organised labour at its best, as they say. Then something happened in the local chapter elections. The brothers Clare came and transformed it into a... how do you say?
A mob. The Débardeurs are a crime syndicate. Sad as it may be, I suspect we'll be forced to cooperate with them.
Refreshingly honest, officer. The company has tried appeasing in the past, but I'm afraid our concessions have only emboldened Everard and his brother. And your opinion, detective, if I may ask? I'm a curious and talkative person, you see. Would you say the Débardeurs Union is...
A giant leech sucking the life of Revachol.
Indeed, and a hungry one. Sadly, Wild Pines have cooperated with what amounts to a crime syndicate for 2 decades. However much you feed the leech always hungers.
One more thing. You said something happened in the elections?
I'm glad you asked. There was a woman, the previous forewoman of the union. She disappeared.
Disappeared?
Yes. On the last day of the local chapter elections, her daughter phoned in and said she wasn't running anymore. Or coming to work. Ever. End of story.
This forewoman, her name?
This forewoman? Her name?
Sadly, the company records do not even give a name. She's just forewoman in private correspondence, Holly. I don't even know if it's a sir or given name, and I don't have access to the union's files.
Some kind of extortion, probably.
Indeed. The company suspects foul play, but there's nothing they could do. It was a union matter. The point of the presentation is, these kinds of things happen around the Clares. Watch out when you're dealing with him.
Thank you for your concern, ma'am. We'll be just fine.
That's how I need here. Let's change the topic.
Of course. How else can I help?
What can you tell me about this lynching?
Quite a few things, I'm afraid.
Worry lines crease her forehead, but it's more than worry. In her eyes, a hint of, is that guilt?
The information I'm to share with you includes sensitive trade secrets. For the sake of my employer, I have to ask for your names and badge numbers.
Of course, ma'am. We should have introduced ourselves. I am Lieutenant Kitsuragi from Precinct 57. And this is my colleague from Precinct 41.
My badge? Yeah, yes, of course. My badge that I have with me.
He looks at you expectantly. Then it dawns on him.
I don't seem to have my badge, actually.
How curious. Why is that, Detective?
Awkwardness washes over the conversation. The woman doesn't like this turn of events. 'Twas stolen by some artist, surely. Best to pin the blame on them. Everyone knows you can't trust artists.
Why should I blame it on an artist?
Everyone knows you can't trust artists. They're nearly as bad as clowns.
Some artist type stole my badge. It was a mistake to trust him.
You mean someone stole your badge?
They said it was. They said it was for a performance. You know how artists are nowadays.
I don't, in fact. I'm afraid what I need to tell you is wholly unrelated to art. I really need to discuss it, however, with the RCM, and I need your badge for that.
Unbelievable, sire. Even the performance artists didn't work.
Remember when my partner told you I'd recently suffered from an unusual medical episode? My lost badge is related to it.
I see. So, are you saying you lost your badge during the course of this episode?
It's possible. After a night of heavy drinking, I lost all memory of my life on the road.
Oh dear. I suppose this does explain some of the more curious turns in our conversation.
She must have been suspecting something for a while now.
As I said, ma'am, his technique may be very unconventional, but he is an officer of the RCM.
Of course, I sympathize, but I'm afraid I simply can't share anything more until I've seen that badge.
Hang on. She's a professional negotiator. She should be open to some sort of mutually beneficial arrangement.
What kind of arrangement would it be?
I mean, favors for favors. A dirty alliance of some sort. Consider this. Perhaps she has been planning it all along. That you convince yourself into colluding with her. Perhaps she even knew beforehand of your affliction. A sudden pinch of paranoia comes over you.
How do I negotiate my way out of this?
Easy. Just offer her a favor. Like I said, nice and dirty.
Surely there's some other way to demonstrate our law enforcement credentials.
I will be frank with you. If I'm going to break protocol, I need to be able to justify it to my superiors. They're going to want to see something very tangible.
You're in, but expect her to drive a hard bargain.
Like what?
Reports from inside Terminal B suggest it's a hub for the local drug trade. This is an open secret in Martinez. The Union controls the terminal, so it goes to reason.
She wants you to help her gain leverage to restart negotiations with the Union.
The company has tried looking into this matter before, to no avail. Perhaps someone with your authority and resources might turn over the right stones. Or you can recover your badge, though if I may be blunt with you, it sounds like that may be a lost cause.
Detective, a word in private before we continue.
Excuse us for a moment, madam.
Hey,
Who? Me?
yes, you. Word on the street is you're ready to start building communism again.
Again?
Yes, you're ready to start building communism again. You've built it before. They've built it before. Hasn't really worked out yet. But neither has love. Should we just stop building love, too?
Can't argue with that.
So, what about all that communism you've promised to build? Word on the street is, you've woken up from 1,000 years of slumber, promising to erect a version of communism many times greater than any attempted before. Is that true?
How come there's a word on the street?
You keep saying things like, down with the bourgeoisie, eat the rich, sodomize the landowners, impale all people who have more than 25 real in their pocket, literally murder all human beings regardless of their political beliefs. That kind of stuff.
Alright, that sounds like me.
Funky style. Very funky. So tell me, do you have any questions before we fire up the big communism builder? Or do we get right down to it?
Wait, first, what is this communism even about?
Failure. It's about failure.
Failure?
Yes, abject failure. Total, irreversible defeat on all fronts. Absolutely vanquished, beaten, curb-stomped and pissed on. Until you came along. You will reverse the fortune of the workers of the world. You alone, against every living thing, against every human alive. 800 trillion real in the hands of an impossibly well-organized ruling class. Towering city blocks of bankmen who have the ears of prime ministers. Hey, psst. Psst. Hey, you.
Who? Me?
Yes, you. Word on the street is you're ready to start building communism again.
Again?
Yes, you're ready to start building communism again. You've built it before. They've built it before. Hasn't really worked out yet. But neither has love. Should we just stop building love, too?
Can't argue with that.
So, what about all that communism you've promised to build? Word on the street is, you've woken up from 1,000 years of slumber, promising to erect a version of communism many times greater than any attempted before. Is that true?
How come there's a word on the street?
You keep saying things like, down with the bourgeoisie, eat the rich, sodomize the landowners, impale all people who have more than 25 real in their pocket, literally murder all human beings regardless of their political beliefs. That kind of stuff.
Oh, right. That sounds like me.
Funky style. Very funky. So tell me, do you have any questions before we fire up the big communism builder? Or do we get right down to it?
Wait, first, what's this communism even about?
Failure. It's about failure.
Failure?
Yes, abject failure. Total, irreversible defeat on all fronts. Absolutely vanquished, beaten, curb-stomped and pissed on. Until you came along. You will reverse the fortune of the workers of the world. You alone, against every living thing, against every human alive. 800 trillion real in the hands of an impossibly well-organized ruling class. Towering city blocks of bankmen who have the ears of prime ministers. Million-headed armies of nations and the love of your own mother. You against the atom, the charm and the spin. Where the whole world failed. Matter failed to bend to human will. Human will failed to get out of bed and tie its laces. You alone, single-handedly, will rebuild the dreams of the working class. You are the last communist. Now get to work, comrade. Oh yeah, get the firing squads and the animal wagons ready.
Wait, what? Firing squads? You didn't say anything about those.
Too late to back out now. You can't make an omelette without breaking a few million eggs.
This is not going quite as I hoped it would, Detective.
How did you hope it would go?
Honestly, I was expecting you to use your unorthodox technique to keep her off balance and, you know, not volunteer us to be her henchman.
Oh, so we're henchmen now?
This woman is running circles around us. She might have known about your misplaced badge all along, or she's simply an adept improviser. Either way, we've played straight into her hands.
He doesn't let it show, but there is a limit to how much the consequences of your unprofessional behavior can cost the investigation. Maybe this is all her plan. She might have heard about you.
What do you propose? That we don't investigate the drug trafficking?
No. If there is reasonable suspicion, we must investigate. Otherwise, she could claim we are siding with the Union, or that we are on their take. We'd never hear the end of it. What I propose is, we ask her, then we investigate, briefly. But do not share the outcome of this investigation with her. We tell her it's done and demand for her information on the lynching.
We could just, you know, file my badge.
Oh, that would be fantastic, but do we have the time? The world is large and your badge is 8 by 6 centimeters.
The situation might have changed drastically by the time you locate it. Time is of the essence.
You could request a new one from the station, but that would literally take months.
The company must have more ears on the ground. She could have known about my condition.
I wouldn't go that far. Her reaction did come off as sincere to me. I think she's just quick to adapt. She's a professional, after all.
Her proposal was likely part of her design. This is all it is.
Yes. Knowing this does not really change our position, however.
Sorry for putting us in this situation. I'll handle it.
I'm sure you will, Detective.
Let's get back to her then.